Welcome everyone to Revel 11 and happy summer everyone on this June 22nd. We're so thrilled to have you here. I have been doing a ton. This is Monica Smith. Sorry, I'm not used to sitting next to you. It's been so long. It's been 4 months since we've been together. So we're sitting in Sun Valley and just got back from a fabulous hike, and we're so happy to have you here today. I don't know about you, but I know that I've been in the kitchen a lot more these last 3 months than I have in my entire life, perhaps. And I've been doing a little baking, and my partner, Jordan, he's been doing a lot of sourdough bread and perfecting that, and then being really creative in the kitchen because we've had so much opportunity to be in the kitchen. That's why I'm so thrilled to have Caprial Pence here today. She has got so many accolades to her name, including one of James Beard's best Northwest chefs and the first female ever. Congratulations, Caprial, that's so amazing. She's had TV shows, and she's also owner of the Madison Kitchen. So thank you so much, Caprial. We're so thrilled to have you here. And take it away, my dear.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, I'm glad to be here. And hi, everybody. Welcome. I see lots of friends and family, and I'm glad to see all the faces out there. So I agree. People have been doing a lot more baking since we've been locked in together, and perhaps it's the sugar that's making us feel better, or just the comfort of doing a little baking. And one of the things that I think is best when you're talking about baking is to do things that are really, really seasonal. So strawberries are just starting to come in. And as anybody who's ever been to Oregon or Washington knows, we have some of the best strawberries in the world. You eat as many as you possibly can until you get sick of them, because you have to wait an entire year before they come back again. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little cake. It uses brown butter, one of my favorite things. I can do brown butter on asparagus. You can do brown butter in cake. Brown butter is one of the best things ever. And then we're going to use a little coconut milk in that cake, but we're going to acidify it. So what I mean by acidifying is we're going to add some acid to it so it mimics something like sour cream or buttermilk. So just gives it a little more richness and flavor. So then we're going to split it, and that's where the strawberries come in. So the strawberries are roasted, so they're super intense and kind of syrupy, and it just takes all that delicious flavor and makes it, amplifies it even more. And then we got to do one more thing to this cake. We're going to put a little Greek yogurt, just with just a touch of sugar and a little bit of vanilla, and that little bit of acidity in the Greek yogurt kind of is a nice contrast to the cake. Okay, so let's get started. Cake is something that scares people. Some people are just scared of baking, period. But this cake is a easy cake. You don't have to mix. You don't have to, well, you can mix. You don't have to cream, butter, and sugar, which is where a lot of people get hung up. There's not a lot of folding. It's just real straightforward. So probably the most complicated part is to make the brown butter. And I'm going to pour the butter into this bowl and hold it up so you can see it. So I took the butter and I cooked it really nice and slow so that it starts to get kind of a brown color. And what happens is the milk solids start to brown and get all toasty, and that's what makes this so delicious. And the one thing you can do with this is burn it. It's many a time I've turned my back on this for a few minutes, and I've got a little smoke and a little fire going on over there. So this is something that you want to pay attention to. Don't walk away from this. And then once it starts to turn a little bit brown, turn that heat off, because it'll continue to cook in the pan. So kind of what's on the lighter side, like a nice light toasty color, that's when you want to turn the heat off. And then let it cool down in the pan. If you're really in a hurry for this, what you can do is take it out of the pan once it gets brown, and then put it into kind of a chilled or cold bowl. And then that'll bring the butter back down to temperature so you can start to add the other ingredients. So we got our butter in a bowl. I'm going to add some brown sugar. All right. So not very
Caprial,
hard. Yeah.
I can't see what you're doing.
Oh, okay. So
I think if you just tilt the camera down a little bit, yeah, there you
just
go.
a little bit. How about
Perfect.
that?
Wonderful.
So I just put the brown sugar in with the brown butter, right? Super simple. We don't have, this basically is a cake where you can just dump everything in. So I am not a pastry chef. I love to bake. I do a lot of baking at Madison Kitchen, but my friends who are truly pastry chefs, they call me a dumper because I don't measure like pastry chefs do. They like to weigh things. They like to be very precise. I kind of bake the way I cook. So you can take this bowl and just dump everything in it and mix it, and your cake is going to be just fine. So don't sweat it. I want people to try cake. If you haven't ever made a cake before, I want this to be the one that you try. So I got the brown sugar in there. I have some eggs. So just 3 eggs. So I will, once I get these eggs in, I will mix this up. So I'm just gonna take the eggs and just mix it with the brown sugar, right? Super simple, no big deal. And then the coconut milk, that's kind of besides the brown butter, that's kind of the other interesting element to this, is I wanted to make something with more flavor in it, not just buttermilk or sour cream. I wanted it to have a little more interest to it. So I just took 2 tablespoons of white vinegar and put them in the coconut milk, so it basically mimics the acidity of buttermilk and sour cream. So if you don't have coconut milk, you can use sour cream for this, you can use yogurt for this, you can use buttermilk for this. You can take almond milk and acidify it if you want to stay away from the dairy. You can take oat milk and acidify it if you want to stay away from the dairy. Basically, you can take anything like that, cream, heavy cream, if you only have heavy cream, or half and half, throw some vinegar in it and acidify it. All of those things will work in this cake, which is another thing that's great. Sometimes people don't want to make a recipe if they don't have every perfect ingredient, then they kind of freak out and won't make a recipe.
So Caprial, the camera's kind of in a weird position. We can't see your face or we can't see the food. So maybe, there we go.
All right.
Or move back.
Maybe move back a little bit.
If I move back, I can't mix.
Okay, well then maybe we can have you put it up. I know. Thank you so much. I know you're doing.
I know this is all new. This isn't like anybody's here, then I could move, or if we had a camera that was movable, that would be a lot easier too. But
thank you.
Just tell me how to adjust and I'm happy to adjust. Okay, so the coconut milk, I just took canned coconut milk. So this is just regular old coconut milk. I threw a couple of tablespoons of white vinegar in, and that's what is the acidification. You want to use a more neutral vinegar, like a white vinegar or apple cider vinegar. If you're desperate and don't have any vinegar around, a couple tablespoons of lemon juice will do the same thing. The only problem with lemon juice sometimes is that the acidity of lemons goes up and down depending on the lemons and when they're in season. So here, I'm going to tilt this just so you can see down to the bowl here and see there's the coconut milk and brown sugar, everything in there. I'm going to have to be my own camera woman. All right, so there's that. I'm going to tilt back up. I don't want to make anybody sick. Don't want to give anybody seasickness. So a little bit of vanilla. And with vanilla, you want to like measure super careful. So just dump in some vanilla, a couple teaspoons. And then our store lately has been carrying lily white flour, which is a southern flour that's a very soft wheat. And that flour mimics kind of like a cake flour, right? So it's a little more, it doesn't have as much protein in it. So I'm going to dump that in. And the protein is what you want when you make sourdough bread or bread, because that protein gives it crust and structure and that nice chew. But with cake, we want it to be nice and tender. So either use a cake flour or something like this lily white that has just not as much protein in it. And then we're just gonna mix it together. This has a little salt in it, and it also has a little baking powder. All right, I'll mix this together really quick and show you what the batter looks like. Actually, the batter's quite tasty if you want to have a whole spoonful of that too. All right. So we just want to make sure all the lumps are out of here. So here I'm going to tilt down so you can see. Here's my batter. Got a few little lumps in there. What I'm going to do now is switch to a whisk so I get nice and smooth. You could do this in a mixer, but I wanted to do a cake that you didn't have to have a mixer for, right? So it's nice to have a mixer, but not everybody has one. All right, so now you can see this is nice and smooth, delicious. At this point, if you wanted to add some different things into it, you could throw a little cinnamon into here, a little fresh grated nutmeg, fresh orange zest would be delicious in here. So kind of once you make this cake, kind of make it your own, like start to kind of play with it and add some different ingredients to it. All right, so our batter's done. That was very complicated, super easy. Then I have my cake pan. So this is a regular 9-inch cake pan, and I'm going to take some spray. We're just going to spray it really good all around the sides. I like spray because it really gets in the sides and the nooks and crannies. And then I have a piece of, I actually think I might have two. I have a piece of parchment paper, so just like this, that I cut to fit in the inside of the cake pan. So I'm going to put that in there. And so the parchment's in the bottom here, and then you want to make sure you spray the parchment too, because what happens sometimes if you forget that part is you'll flip your cake out, and then the parchment will stick to the cake. It'll come out of the pan, but then you have a problem with the cake sticking to the parchment. So I'm going to spray it again, and then a friend of mine who's a chef actually taught me this. So most people have you take your cake pan and put a little flour in it. But she was like, if you're not going to frost the cake, why not put a little sugar in it instead? It'll let the cake release, but you have that nice crispy little edges of the sugar, which is a nice addition. So I just take the garbage, or I've got this pot that's already dirty, and I just go around the pan with the sugar. So then you've got a nice sugared pan, right? And then in goes our batter. And this will cook for about 25 minutes at 325 degrees. And if you have a convection oven, this is the one time I don't want you to use it. So a lot of people are afraid of their convection ovens and they don't want to turn the fan on. But this is one time I don't want you to use the fan. Most of the time I'm encouraging people to turn their fans on and use their convection oven. But cake can get really dried out even if you turn the temperature down. So I like to baby my cakes a little bit, so I want it at 325. All right. All right, there's our cake. If I turn it too much, it's gonna spill out. So we're gonna bring that down. There's the batter in our cake pan, right? I'm gonna put it right behind me. And through the magic of Zoom, here's the cake out of the oven. So this is the cake. I've allowed it to cool. So this, what I do is once it's nice and cool, I give it a little shake in here before I turn it out onto the plate.
So Caprial, somebody asked if you floured the pan with powdered or granulated sugar.
Good question. That was granulated sugar. And normally in the kitchen, I use super fine sugar, but you don't have to. You don't have to always use super fine.
Sounds absolutely delish.
You know, if you like to eat the batter of the cake, it usually bodes well for how good the cake will taste later. So when you flip it out, so it's flipped out on my tray here, we're gonna split it because we're gonna put those strawberries that we roasted in the center of the cake. All right, so I'm actually gonna take it off that. If you have a slicing knife, this is when you're gonna wanna use it, and I'm gonna turn the camera down so you can see what I'm doing here. Get rid of some of my junk. All right. So we're gonna take the cake, slide it towards me, and I want a nice long slicing knife. And what I'm doing is I'm moving the cake, and the knife goes around with me. And the nice thing about this is we're not frosting it, so it doesn't have to be exact. That's the other thing. People are afraid to frost it, and it's not gonna look right. And then there's the inside of our cake. And that goes over here. Okay, we're gonna keep the top there. So I'm gonna use strawberries today. And I'm using the strawberries because they're in season, obviously, but you could use raspberries, blueberries, peaches would be delicious in there. Slice the peaches, toss them with a little bit of sugar, and then you're gonna roast them. So I'm gonna bring my strawberries over so I can talk about how I did that. Let's clean up my mess a little bit here. All right, here are my strawberries. I'm gonna tip down a little bit so you can see. There's my strawberries. So these were beautiful Washington strawberries I got from the farmer's market on Sunday. And the big ones I cut in quarters. The little ones I left whole. And then some of them I left, I did half, just so they're generally the same size. This was about 5 cups of strawberries, and then I put about 1/3 of a cup of sugar on them and a little bit of vanilla extract. And then what I did is I put this sheet pan in the oven. I'm gonna tip back up. Put the sheet pan in the oven so that the sheet pan actually got hot. So nice hot oven, 425 degrees. This time I want you to turn the convection on. And then you're gonna let that sheet pan get hot for maybe 20 minutes or so. And you're gonna let the strawberries sit. Well, they're gonna let off all their juices from the sugar. And then you're gonna go in and dump those strawberries on that hot, hot sheet pan. And what that does is it starts them cooking and pulls the juices out, starts to concentrate the juices like almost right away. And then you're gonna cook this until the juices and the strawberries start to bubble, which is about 20 minutes or so. And then what I do is once it comes out, let's tip it down a little bit again, sorry. Once it comes out, you're gonna wanna make sure you're stirring this around, because see, even in this corner, those juices have started to kind of solidify over there. But can you see how nice and syrupy those are? They're super delicious. Now, we're using this to split and put in this cake, but this could go on just ice cream tonight, or this could go on just a simple with cookies. Or I could eat a bowl of it just like this also. It's just delicious. You could also do a mixed berry if you want. So this morning when I was baking at the kitchen, I used strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries because they're all starting to come into season. You could do a whole mix here, let them get nice and juicy like this, and then use that to fill the cake with. I have also done this where I make a muffin, and then when the muffin comes out, I take the handle of a wooden spoon and I poke a hole in the muffin, and then I fill it with these gooey strawberries too. So once you make these strawberries, you'll find lots and lots of things to do with them. All right, so I'm gonna slide my cake over, bring my cake, and I'm gonna tip down again so you can see as it goes on the cake here. So you don't wanna miss any of that liquid. gonna put this over here. And then I just start to spread this beautiful strawberry mixture out to the edges. You want to be careful that you don't lose too much of the juice down the side. So keep kind of spreading out. And then once it gets nice and even, we're going to lift this up and put the top back on. So now we've got our cake nice and settled, but then we're going to do some yogurt with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of vanilla. So you can top your cake with this yogurt mixture right now and have it kind of soak into the cake, or you could save it and just put it on, not per order, that's restaurant lingo, but when you serve it, you can put it on each piece. And that way, if you're worried about the top of the cake getting a little bit soggy, that won't happen. You can just do it per piece, not per order. The other thing that I did, I made this cake 2 days in a row at the kitchen. And one day I put more berries on top and the yogurt. And then this morning when I made it, I did big fluffy whipped cream on it and tons of toasted coconut went on top of that, because we're tying back in with the coconut milk that we acidified in here. So it's a nice little addition of flavor, and it's also kind of nice and crunchy and just adds an extra little layer of flavor. So let me grab my yogurt. All right, so we're making cake and we're gonna eat cake. So we're not gonna use non-fat Greek yogurt. We're gonna use full-fat Greek yogurt because we're having cake. We're gonna go all the way with this. So good quality Greek yogurt. I love labneh also, but sometimes labneh, which is a Middle Eastern sort of cheese made with yogurt, it's super tangy and delicious, but sometimes it's a little bit thick. So if you do a little bit of half and half and a little labneh, you can make a delicious sauce with this too. And like I said, I did whipped cream today, so you could do whipped cream also. So I'm just putting some yogurt in the bowl. And then I do not like things too sweet. So I'm just gonna put about a tablespoon of sugar in here. And this is about a cup-ish, a heavy cup of the Greek yogurt, okay? And then again, we're gonna add a little vanilla, and you should measure oh so carefully by just adding a little bit into your bowl. I'm afraid it's gonna pour out really fast. And then you're gonna just mix this up. So let's say you're having a dinner party and you wanna make this special and you wanna make sure that you have everything ready to go, because who wants to fuss with a dessert at the end of dinner when you've had some wine and everybody's having a good time. You can have your cake made and split and filled, and you can have this separate. You want to make sure if you refrigerate the cake that you let it sit for at least an hour to 2 hours before you serve it, because what happens to cake when it gets cold is all that butter solidifies in there, and it can make cake taste actually dry when it's not dry. It's just that the butter is very solid. So make sure, if any kind of cake you ever make sure it gets to come up to room temperature before you eat it, because it's just so much better at room temperature. So all of this can be made and ready to go, and then all you have to do is slice and plate it up. All right, I'm going to cut us a piece so we can talk about how to serve it. All right, so I have a nice, beautiful plate. I'm going to tip down so you can see what I'm doing down here. I have this is a plate that my dad made ages ago for me. Sometimes with this cake, a serrated knife will work better, especially because it's warm and the strawberries tend to kind of jiggle in there a little bit. So either a really sharp knife or a serrated knife would be the best. All right, let's see how this lifts out for me. So can you see the layers in there, the nice strawberry? I think I left just a tiny bit of the corner. But you know, Julia Child always said that you could cover a lot of mistakes with whipped cream, and Greek yogurt works exactly the same way as whipped cream. We just take this whipped cream, not whipped cream, sorry, Greek yogurt. I was thinking about Julia and whipped cream, and we're gonna just put it over the edge of the cake. Super easy. Don't make it too fussy. Don't try and go all top chef on your guests. Just keep it really simple. And remember that, like all things in cooking and baking, you can change this around. Don't brown the butter. Keep it simpler. Just melt the butter. You don't even have to worry about browning the butter. When you're melting the butter, what about if you threw the orange zest in there and a little bit of ground cinnamon in it? So just kind of think about, once you make this cake, what can I do different? You could take, there's 2 cups of flour in this cake. You could take a half a cup of flour out and grind almonds. You could grind hazelnuts. You could grind just about any nut, and this would be great. And then that adds another dimension to this. And then instead of vanilla, you use just a touch of almond extract in here. But be careful with almond extract, because sometimes almond extract can be really overwhelming. It starts to taste like a really bad muffin from a bad bakery. So we don't want that. So if you do decide to add a little bit of almond, just remember, just a little bit. I'm also thinking that if you wanted to, you could split this into more layers and put more strawberries. But if you did that, my recommendation would be to chill the cake solid before you want to do those thinner layers. But it's definitely doable, because this is a pretty tall cake. So you could definitely split it into more layers and do double the strawberries, or on one layer you could do peaches, on the next layer you could do raspberries. So kind of just use that bounty of, we can't get out and do much right now, but we can go to the farmers markets, and we want to make sure that we're going and supporting our small and local farmers. So go and see what's great at the market, and then take advantage of it. Come home and make a completely different cake that's all yours and doesn't even resemble mine anymore, which I love. I love that idea of people taking a recipe and running with it and doing something great. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Caprial, I just put that in the chat, but if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to turn on your camera and ask Caprial directly, or you can put something in chat and I will ask her for you.
So I'll tell you just a tiny bit about myself. Some of you know me, some of you know me very well. But I started my career here in Seattle a long time ago, back in the 80s, and I was the chef at a restaurant called Fuller's, which is where I got my beer award. And then my husband and I moved to Portland, and that's where we started. We had sort of a family started at that point, and then we really started our family and also started our restaurant in Portland. And we lived there and ran businesses for 21 years. And then I came up here to work for Kimpton, which is where there's some great Kimpton people. Some of my Kimpton people are on, which was a great company, because they really support women there. I met a lot of great women there. So I think they saw a question about cupcakes.
That's fantastic.
I think there was a question about, can you use like a cupcake, or can you make this in cupcakes instead of a cake? And yes, you absolutely can. Just watch your timing so that the cake doesn't get overbaked. And then what I would do with the cupcake is do the thing where I was talking about poking the hole in it. So I wonder if I have, Like, get something like this that has a nice thick wooden spoon on it, and you just, once the cupcake's warm, just shove it in the cupcake and make a little space. And then take your strawberries and either put them in a Ziploc bag or a piping bag and just shoot them into the center of that. And then you can put the whipped cream or the yogurt on top of that. And there you go. And then it's portable if you want to take it to a party.
Caprial, I've got to tell you, it sounds so good. I want to make it tonight, but I think we're actually going to make it tomorrow night.
And I have to tell you, when I was doing this, I was laughing because we have this very bad behaved cat. Really, he's a teenage cat, and he was licking the cake batter out of the pan that I just made.
Such a bad cat.
I could hear licking going on, and now he's laying over on the table quite satisfied. So he
I don't know.
yeah.
Any other questions?
Are there
Well,
more questions?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just wondering if there were more questions.
Oh, it says, can you also add a liqueur like Kirsch to the
Yeah.
strawberries to enhance the flavor?
That's a good question.
Anybody that knows me will know that I'll always say you can always add liquor to it. Strawberries, especially, yeah, that a little orange liqueur would be great. Cherries are in right now, and the only reason why I didn't do cherries is I figured it'd be a mess to pit them all. But you could absolutely do this with fresh cherries and put a little kirsch in it because that's cherry flavor. Or pick something contrasting like a little ginger liqueur in there would be delicious too. So just think about the flavors that you like with berries, and then that you could always add to that. And then you can have a little for dessert too.
And Caprial, you're going to send us the recipe, correct?
I am.
Okay.
So it'll be up, I assume, tomorrow or something like that on the website, so people can
Okay.
access it.
So we'll go ahead and forward it to all of you because I know that we're anxious to make this for dinner tomorrow night for our dessert.
There you go. But Tuesday
Yeah.
night dessert's the best.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. That I'm so hungry right now.
So hungry.
But before you guys go and start making your dinners, I did want to mention that we're in the middle of this Summer of Self-Love series that we're really excited about. So this Friday, we have a wonderful speaker talking about the meaning of dreams. And if any of you are interested, just reply to the email that I send you tomorrow with the recipe and let us know if you want to answer a survey about dreams since the pandemic started. I don't know about you guys, but my dreams have been crazy, and I know Joni has
Crazy.
experienced the same thing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So we have a session. So these sessions are every Friday at 8 a.m. They're only 30 minutes, and it's great information. So this Friday is Meaning of Dreams. Next week is about building your sense of self-worth with Olympian Jamie Comer. And then the week after that is with life coach Sonia Stoklosa talking about tips and wisdom during this crazy time. So you can check out all of our events coming up on our website, which is revel11.com. So Caprial, thank you again.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
for
thanks
asking me.
everyone else for joining us. We hope that we see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Miss you all.
Have a great night.
Great to see
Bye.
everyone today.
Yeah.
Happy Monday.
A happy Monday, yes. Time for a glass of wine now.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheers.
You're happy.
We're an hour later.
Oh, that's true. All right.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's almost 6 here. So, all right, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Caprial.